All right, all right, all right. Welcome, loyal listeners, to another episode of Agency Intelligence Podcast, where I give you a real agent inside a real agency, giving you the real agency intelligence and not the artificial that they try to make you believe out there. This is Cass back in your ear once again, and we have our man, Mr. Doug Benz. Now, you're probably saying to yourself, I know that guy. Oh my God, I can't believe it's the reason why I hit play, Cass. And then there's 50% of you that are like, I've never heard of this guy. Like, who is this guy? You are in for a treat because he's new to me too. I got to tell you, Doug and I know of each other. We know each other through our mutual good friend, the one, the only, the crazy son of a bitch, Mr. David Carruthers. And I don't know if there's any better way to describe him than that, you know?
I think that's pretty spot on.
Other than if it's David listening, he'd say, roll the red carpet out, tell him about my background. No, he wouldn't. But anyways, I love that man. And that's how I've kind of got to know Doug of what I know of him. And loyal listeners, you're getting ready to get to know him. So Doug, welcome to the podcast, man.
Hey, thanks very much for having me, Jason.
I appreciate it very much. Great little background you have there for all you loyal listeners who are watching on YouTube. You get to see he's got his, looks like downtown area right behind you.
It is. Our office is in downtown Buffalo, so got a lot of windows here. And the sun is pretty harsh today, so I'm kind of pointed out the side of the office instead of. Usually we have a nice scape towards downtown.
Doug, we won't get into this, but how much does the city of Buffalo pay people to live there? Okay, it's so goddamn cold. I don't understand how you people do it. I think it's cold where I live. It's got to be one hell of a tax incentive that they must give you guys to keep you there.
Yeah, something like that, I guess.
Yeah.
I actually don't think there are any tax incentives to
it's cold.
Live in Buffalo, but it's not almost the cold as much as it is the amount of snow.
Yes.
So it's not as frigid as some spots, but we're on the end of Lake Erie, the eastern end of Lake Erie, and we get what they call lake effect snow here. So we can get some big snow dumps from time to time. But as you can see behind me, it's pretty mild so far.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's a bright sunny day.
I'm knocking on wood for you.
So I appreciate that.
So Doug, you ready?
I'm ready.
First question, are you an iPhone or you a Droid user?
I am an iPhone user.
Wah, wah, wah. It's the same
Big surprise?
Nah, not really. But it's okay. It's okay.
I know. I am an Apple guy.
You are pretty cool. So I was thinking if anybody is probably Droid, it would probably be you. But nope, you disappointed me again. All right, no, totally joking, Doug. Hey, tell us the last app you downloaded.
The last app I downloaded was, I think, TikTok, believe it or not. I had a chance to meet the great Daniel Song a few weeks ago, and he amassed like 1 million TikTok followers in 6 months. It's a pretty cool story, so cool. I thought, I got to take the plunge and get on TikTok and check it out.
Dude, TikTok is great. I have to tell you,
I'm
there's a couple things I'm working on right now, but I'm getting ready to remove Facebook and Instagram and all of them off my phone, and I'm going to only have TikTok. TikTok is actually educational. It's funny. You don't have all the BS there. Now, you have some of the flat earthers there and shit, right? But you could just watch those and laugh. But, Doug, you're not a flat earther, are you?
No, I'm not.
Okay, good. I didn't want to disrespect somebody that's on my show.
That's fine.
But I think I could disrespect you. If you were a flat earther, that is one argument. I could just disrespect you, and like 90% of my audience would be like, yeah, you shouldn't believe in that. But anyway.
I would take it. I believe in birds, too. So
I believe in birds. So, yeah, dude, it's pretty wild. So, okay, but I love TikTok. Do you love to win or do you hate to lose?
Oh, man. I do love to win. I mean, I hate to lose, but I really do love to win. I love the rush of winning. So
that's awesome.
I'm gonna go with that one.
Skill or luck, two things we believe got you to who you are today. Which ones do you think has been a bigger factor in your life, skill or luck?
Man, I don't know. It's hard to say skill for me, but I'm not a giant believer in luck. So maybe it's a mix of both. Sometimes I use the word blessed instead of luck, but I think some hard work and just plugging is it's been the key for me.
been our story of everybody. I got to tell you that.
Yeah.
That is the damnedest truth right there. Now,
It is.
take us back to high school, diapers, doesn't matter, college.
Yeah.
In 3 to 4 minutes, bring us forward to where you are today and how you got sitting in that chair.
Yeah, sure. Well, I got into this business about a dozen years ago. I'm 43, so I was in my 30s and had a family, and I kind of was searching for something next. My background I went to the University of Buffalo, and I was a photographer.
Huh.
I worked for in the news business, so I worked for newspapers and magazines, some of the big guys, some of the national publications, and it was a great gig. I covered sports and politics, all the fun stuff. So I photographed the president, I photographed championship pro sports, all that kind of good stuff. But around 2008-ish, when we had the big economic hiccup, it was kind of made me think, man, I just can't see myself doing this for the next 30 years and retiring. A lot of the money kind of got sucked out of print media, and that's where that was sort of what we worked on. So I'm like, what else could I do? And one thing that always hung me up in that gig was that there's only one of me. I couldn't replicate myself and send myself to 5 different assignments at a time. So I was like, I really liked the idea of a business that was, kind of had residual income, and that you could grow in a sort of exponential way, not just based on your time. So I kind of did this little soul search, and I'm like, do I want to try and get into go to law school at 30 or something like that? And I knew some people in this business. I was always kind of intrigued by it, and I thought, I'm going to go get a license and see if someone will let me come work for them. I found an agency here in town that said, yeah, you can come. Here's a desk, here's a phone. We'll give you a 60-40 split, and you can have at it. So I think I just never gave up. I just kept plugging away,
Mm-hmm.
and it eventually sort of turned into something. And here we're just coming up on our 5-year anniversary of being out on my own. So
Fantastic.
It's been really good. Yeah, it feels great.
Yeah, that was probably was that a scary thought to go out on your own like that?
It really was, and I'll give my wife some credit. She's awesome for giving me a push. She was kind of like, don't worry about the how so much. Just decide you're going to do it, and once you sort of make that decision, the details will sort of fall into place. And that was really great advice, and it was true. I think I thought about it for a bit, but I was sort of hung up on how could I make it work? How can I kind of quit my job and start out with a family? And sometimes you just got to take the plunge, and we survived. Here we are.
And here we are, better than we were before. And so what
Absolutely.
does your agency makeup look like?
Yeah, so we're primarily commercial lines. We work with a lot of contractors. We do a lot of E&O for attorneys and accountants, stuff like
Okay.
that. We work maybe some social service organizations as well, and some schools, some specialty schools. It's kind of what we focus on mostly.
Okay.
But I'd say we're sort of a generalist. We're probably about 70% commercial. We do a bunch of personal lines too. And you mentioned David Crothers a little bit ago. We've embarked a year and change ago on the Killing commercial, and that's been really cool because it's new, focusing on a lot of middle market stuff. So we're writing some bigger stuff than we're used to, and doing a little bit more risk management for some of those larger accounts, and that's been really nice.
That really has been nice. And I say because I've followed along the same thing. And it's really, it's so frustrating to not be seen as a professional. But what's funny is you can try to get that out of people as much as you want, but when you start acting like a professional and you start carrying yourself like a professional, it's amazing how people will start treating you like a professional. And one of the things that we say when we go into businesses now, when I'm sitting down in front of that whale, is listen, hey, we're an insurance provider. We can help you with your insurance. That's what we do. But I want to clear the air right now that we do not consider ourselves insurance agents. We consider ourselves risk advisors. Now, when I first used to say that, Doug, I would say, hey, we're not insurance agents, we're risk advisors. And I realized, like, after a couple meetings, they were all asking me the same question. That, like, right before I'd leave, they'd say, now, all this sounds great and stuff, but you could help us with our insurance, right? And I would be like, why are they asking us that after I just sat down with them for 45 minutes? Well, I realized I was giving them so much advice, and I had categorized myself as a risk advisor that they're kind of thinking, so I just get the advice from you and then I go buy the insurance from somewhere else, right? So that was kind of like, I'm telling you all that to loyal listeners to know that you got to watch what you say sometimes. But I do take it as a sense of pride that when we're riding these whales and we're helping these people, like, we're truly helping them. We're not just helping them with their premium. We're helping them better make their businesses more excellent, creating a more safe work environment, creating a plan and process so in case something happens, they do. I like to say all the time to my clients, you can be as safe as you want, but shit happens. And when shit happens, do you have a plan? That's the key. Because all the other agents are going, oh, you just need to get more safe, and it's like, well, what the hell does that mean? No one can be perfectly safe. And so I really like what you're saying there, because that is one of the things that David really David didn't write the book on how to do whales. But what he did is he has a caring enough nature to say, Doug, sit down for a minute and just listen to me, and let me explain a few things to you differently than probably what you've been told before, and tell me what you think. And when you listen to him, you're like, well, some bitch, that makes sense.
Yeah, He puts it in a great way. He's really succinct in how he expresses it. And I think, what I love about this business is that you get to help people, like you said. I mean, from the outside looking in, I guess there's maybe a stereotype about insurance agents or something like that. But, to go into an organization and make, like, meaningful changes to help them, and to keep people safer, and to try and control their bottom line so they can grow, so that they can bring more people in and give them a livelihood. It's like, I think you're really doing meaningful work, and it feels good. It feels great to help people in that way, and that's a cool part about this business, if not the coolest part, really.
Yeah, it really does. It feels really, really good. And oh damn, I guess my lights out back there. I just now realized it wasn't on. But so when you guys, how long were you dealing with large whales and large commercial, or was it something you were dabbling in and then you met David?
Yeah, I would say we were always working on some bigger accounts, but not really middle market accounts. So I would say some of our largest accounts might have been, some contractors in New York. Contractors pay a lot of premium, so you might not be an enormous organization, but you still might have like a six-figure annual premium when you wrap in your GL and auto umbrella, certainly your comp. So we worked on a number of accounts like that for a while, but to go into some of these bigger things where you're, diving into the mod and the work comp and trying to analyze and control that's been a next step for us. We weren't really so much doing that. It just kind of maybe was what it was back in the old days for us. And we might make some suggestions on a return to work program or something like that. But now we're like more involved in kind of trying to set it up and actually do it. And, we have taken on some new softwares that allow us to bring a lot more value to the client, I guess, in that way,
Absolutely. And then, so, I mean, is it just you going after some of the larger accounts, or do you have other producers in your office that are doing it as well?
Yeah, right now it's mostly me. I had a great person, and life sort of changed for him during COVID. So, there's 4 of us here total, but it's mostly me going after the big ones.
Gotcha.
I'd love to get somebody in here and kind of train them and show them the light. That's my goal for 2022. So,
Doug, I want to tell you. So that was my goal as well. I have 2 that they're both 22-year-olds, gentlemen. And so I decided, just like I had with my book of business and going all in David and what he had taught me, I decided I'm going to do what David talks about when it comes to training producers. And I'm not going to train them in everything. I'm going to train them in workers' comp. We have enough people in our office that can go in and get the P&C, all the rest of the lines. And one of the things that I realized was, number one, it's a lot easier for me to train just work comp than anything. I mean, it really, really is. I mean, I will be honest, I thought that someone should be able to pick up work comp probably in about 3 days. It did take it a little bit longer for them to kind of understand it, but I also think it's because they're both 22. If you had a 32 or 42-year-old, would have went a lot quicker in that sense. But
Yeah.
these are guys who joined us in June, got licensed at the end of August, and they're both getting ready to each write their first account. One's about $125,000. I think the other's $145,000 in work comp.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really awesome. And I was not writing those. I mean, I sit around and think about, before I knew David, like I'm sitting in front of this account the other day, Doug. It's $565,000 work comp youth home. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, as I'm waiting for the CFO to walk in the door and the human resource director, I'm sitting here thinking, 3 years ago, I never would have thought I'd be sitting in front of an account that's $500 and some $1,000. I wouldn't think I had the confidence enough to do that. And yet here I am. And same thing with them. I mean, they're writing now. One of the guys is only getting the workers' comp because that's what we lead with hardcore. The other place has basically said, we want you to quote the package as well. So we're doing that as well. But I mean, for these guys here who have not made more than $25,000 in a year their whole life, and they're possibly going to make a little bit more than that at one sitting, this is like an eye-opening thing to them. I'm thinking to myself, God, I wish someone would have shown me this when I was 22 years old, you know? And so that's what we've done with David. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say that's great. And, it's always a challenge to get a producer, I think, up and running, because a lot of small hits and kind of the traditional way of doing this, you start writing all this personal lines and other smaller commercial stuff. Well,
Yes.
it takes a lot of that business to get a livable income. But if you're chasing some of this larger stuff, it's not as hard as people think. It's maybe not as hard as you or I always used to think it was. And there's so much value that you can bring. That's part of what we've learned. But, one of the things I love about comp is it's like you're covered or you're not. It's relatively straightforward. It's not like, some of these crazy types of things where there's a lot of nuance to learn and, you're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to screw this up. It's like the policy's in force, you're covered.
Mm-hmm.
And then getting into that back end stuff, I mean, we're talking to people all the time that just no one has ever spoken to them about their mod. In New York, we have these different tiers. So it's not an NCCI state here. New York does its own thing. And then if a carrier wants to charge a different rate, they have these different tiers that they can use. So you might think that you're with, carrier A, but really carrier A is like writing on like 10 or 20 different carriers, different paper for each tier. So, sometimes you find somebody with a low mod, but they're in a high tier. And you can say, hey, this is something we can help you correct. And they're like, man, no one's ever explained any of this stuff to us before. So
that's like another layer on top of the mod. Yeah.
Yeah, correct. So it's been a lot of fun. I mean, and we've had some nice hits to show for it. This year we wrote, like, I think the biggest single policy ever. It was like a $250,000 work comp policy or something like that, and we kicked off 2021 with that.
Bam.
And we've written some other good ones too. So it's been great.
I say it all the time, Doug. One of my things that I do is that I'll be talking to the person, to the human resource director. We go into their office, we sit down. I'm there for the 20-minute meeting, and I'll in the first literally 30 seconds, I will explain to them, hey, I just want to let you know that part of our marketing, we use the word, how come no one's ever told me that before? Because I want to let you know, you're probably going to think that to yourself a lot over the next 20 minutes. And I'll help you justify it. But I just want you to know that it's probably, how come my agents never told me that? How come no one's ever told me that before?
Yeah.
If you think that, please just let me explain, right? 5-10 minutes into the meeting. 5 to 10 minutes into the meeting, you see it. You see their gears spinning, and you kind of stop and you look and go, let me guess, no one's ever told you that before. And they'll always laugh. It is the greatest icebreaker because they'll be like, yeah, dude, that no one ever has. So you're either full of shit and you need to explain yourself, or I need to be calling my agent. And you're kind of, no, let me explain myself, and you've got these.
It makes great sense too when you start explaining it.
It really does, because they're thinking of themselves. Now, I mean, I'm going to tell you this, and loyal listeners, this is for you too. I have yet to talk to one. I have not talked to one. When I say one, I don't mean maybe kind of this. I have yet to find somebody who can explain to me what their modification factor is and why it's important to them. Even after I'm in there for the 20-minute meeting, even after I'm in there, I mean, I'll sit there and say to them, okay, do you still have any clue? Has anybody ever explained this to you? And they're like, no, I just know that when it goes up, it's not good, And the reason I say that, Doug, is you know this to be the truth as well, but to the loyal listeners, not one person I've spoken to in the last 2.5 years specifically about this, and I'm going to say it's been over 500, have been able to say, yeah, I know what a modification factor is, and then they start telling you. And it's not like they want the definition. They don't even have they have no understanding of why it is even affecting them and what it's about. And when I say that, Doug, and loyal listeners, alarm bells should be going off in your head, loyal listeners, that this is something that everybody has on their work comp policy and is a driving factor as to why they pay a lot of money. And no employer has any clue about it. And to me, every time it just drives me more and more to know that this is what I'm doing. And that's why I did that with my 2 young producers. And they are just off to the races now. One of them, you got some serious stuff going on there. There's cops going by and all kinds of stuff going on out there.
Yeah, sorry about the noise.
I can barely hear them because your microphone's good at blocking out, but I just see all these cop cars flying by with their lights on. I'm thinking, man,
I know.
There's some major stuff going on over there.
It's a busy day in Buffalo.
Yeah, I guess so. It's nice out, no snow. Everybody's out like robbing places. So anyways, yeah, and you know what? What's funny is I didn't mean to go this direction when it comes to that, but I had kind of forgot that you had been a CBKer as well, yourself. So it's been, I have to say, there's my agency before and there's my agency after.
I agree, and it's like, I think when you're in an agency, there's a lot of stuff coming at you all the time, and a lot of it's very cool, and a lot of it's very expensive, and there's things you'd like to do. Maybe there's things that, you might try to plan for down the road, and we sort of just did it impulsively. I talked to David and kind of heard about it, and as soon as I heard it, I'm like, man, this is what we need. And I think it's really cool that he's doing it, and I think like with your podcast and it's such a way to communicate to people in our business that never really existed before. Like when I got into the business, I remember these guys sort of offered me this compensation package, and I was like, I wonder if this is good or not, and I was like trying to Google, this is like 2010 or something, and just find any other information about like the business or other people getting into it or just anything, and it was like there's nothing, and I remember even over the course of a couple of years, I just kind of I'd sort of search around trying to find any information where you could kind of learn from other people in this business, and it didn't exist. So I think to be able to tune into agency intelligence or join something like the CBK Killing Commercial, it's pretty awesome that that's out there now for people, and I just think it makes the business better altogether.
Right, it does. And think about, and this is so important what you're talking about here, Doug, because this has been a monumental shift in a lot of industries. But Randy Schwantz came out with the wedge back in the late 90s, early 2000s, okay? That was the golden child book. That was the book of how you would separate yourself out there when it came to writing the middle market accounts, okay? But then what it slowly faded over to is as technology came about, it became how you use the mod. So in 05, 06, 07, that's when they really started teaching, and Randy did and other people, but basically it was at the big broker level. You couldn't afford it. I mean, it was $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 to send your producer to learn this, and you didn't get these online courses or anything. You went for 2-3 days, you learned it, and then you brought it back, and maybe, Randy or your instructor would maybe get on the phone with you. But why David, and this takes no discredit away from David, but it's all about timing in life. And why David's in the right spot at the right time is because with all these tools, these podcasts, the Facebook, the sharing, the social, the groups, those weren't able to be around back in 04, 05 like they are now. And all David did was say, hey guys, I used to work for a big broker, and I was kind of taught a little bit how to do it this way. And then I've been in business my own self for 4 years, and I've perfected it. Would anybody else like to learn that? And really that, I don't think people understand, Doug, how important that was at that moment. Randy Schwantz was at my Grow program, which is now BrainShare, in 2017. And we're sitting on top of this hotel, and all the BrainShare people are there. And he said to me, he says, you know what, Jason? He said, I would love to teach what I know to a smaller agency. It's just really hard to get them to be able to afford it, and for them to put the tools in place to be able to do it. And he says, I'd love to be able to figure something out. And that is where we are now. David came along not knowing that that was a barrier or anything, and just basically said, wait a minute, I can teach this to anybody. You don't have to be all this and that. And I think this will affect the big brokers. That is the power of what David is doing, is those big brokers have always been stuck. If it was a $200,000 account or more, the Main Street agent wasn't getting it. Now, we're in there popping them. I mean, up to $500,000, that's a market for us,
I agree. And, at that level, there's not a lot of competition, right? In my town, there's probably maybe 3 or 4 operations that I can think of that are reliably writing those kind of accounts, or known for those kind of accounts. One of them's a bank. And one of them used to be a bank, but they just got purchased. So, I think that, and when we get in there now, it's great because it's not just, there's an element of control when there's not a lot of competition, right? And now to be able to go in there and talk about stuff that, people at our size agency just, clients aren't used to hearing that kind of thing from us.
That's right.
It's a great feeling, and it's a distinguisher in a huge way, And again, it's all about just bringing that value back to the client.
It really truly is. It really truly is. I am, margins are important, and when you write middle market, the margins are astronomically huge, and so that's one of the things. Right. Doug, switching topics here real quick. Are you a boater? You like to?
I am a boater.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Living there on the lake, I guess. Is that the reason why? Yeah.
Got Lake Erie and the Niagara River here, so it's a kind of short season. It's a May to this year. We came out like November 3rd or something like that, but it's great. It's great during that time. So we've got kids, and I grew up. My folks had a boat, and we spent a lot of time out there. There's something kind of magical about it. So
you got a sailboat, motorboat. What do you got?
It's a power boat. Yeah, got a power boat. It's like a 38-foot Chris Craft. It's an older steel boat from 1969, but we can kind of stay on it in the summer, and it's
that's awesome.
It's fun. It's our thing.
That's awesome. Yeah. I picked that out of David and I always talking about we're going to be fishing whenever it's retired. The problem with it is I'm going to retire and be able to retire. He's never going to retire. I keep telling him. Yeah. I said, dude, quit coming up with fucking shit. Oh, sorry about that, loyal listeners. I'm sorry. I thought Doug and I were just talking here for a minute. I tell him, I'm like, just calm down and quit coming up with new stuff. But it's the way his brain goes. But him and I are big into I'm not even a fisherman. But deep sea fishing, I think, is awesome. I just really do. When I can throw if I throw my hook in and I get like a bass or a crappie, that doesn't really mean much to me. You know what I mean? But if I could pull it in and I don't know if I'm going to pull out a tuna, a shark, or a blowfish, that's fun. You know what I mean? And so him and I have talked about doing that. And so you're kind of up north there, so you'll have to. It's a long way for you to drive your boat around. You're just gonna have to move to Florida too, Doug.
Yeah, we might just have to move down there. When I started this agency now almost 5 years ago, I was down in a town called Bonita Springs,
know where that is,
which is between Fort Myers and Naples. And the folks that I started out working for here in Buffalo wanted to open up an operation there around 2013, and they asked me if I'd go down and kind of take charge of it. So I sort of cut my teeth starting an agency for somebody else. And after it got up and running, I was like, man, I just want to do this. I want to do this on my own.
So you went
now.
down there to Bonita Springs?
Well, we lived down there for about 4 years or so, and it was a great experience. We loved it, and that's kind of my goal, is to get one foot back in there.
Yeah.
So we've made a lot of great friends, and I just love that Gulf Coast area. And I'd love to I'd love to get back there as much as possible.
What do you think for the next? You're 43. 43, you said?
Yeah, 43.
Class of '96.
Class of '96.
That's me too, baby. That's me too.
Oh,
something special about that. Something special about that.
I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, there is something special about that. But what was the question? Oh yeah. So you're 43 years old. Where are you going from here? You're growing your business. You're writing whales. Do you wanna have multiple locations? Are you looking at saying, hey, by the time I'm 50, I'm gonna start putting one foot in Florida? What's your future, Doug?
So that's a great question. It's been something I've been, just as the year ends, I've been really trying to sort of rework and just dive into my own plan a little bit better. I think it's so easy to maybe get lost in the day-to-day when you're just grinding away sometimes. But I think I'm gonna stay. I see myself owning this business for a while at least. I'm not trying to jump out of it. I'm part of the community here, and Buffalo's kind of a small big town, I guess you might say. Mm-hmm. And but I do miss Florida, and I could see going back down there and basically just I could go right back to Bonita and get an operation going, and I think I would love that. So
Bonita Springs is awesome.
So that's a kind of sort of part of my plan. I think by the time I'm 50, if not before, I'd like to have something going down there. So
you have any kids in the business or planning on it?
Yeah, it's a great question, right? So, my oldest daughter just started college this year, so kids aren't quite old enough yet, but we'll see where they go. It's something you always sort of think about. Part of me thinks it would be great, and another part of me thinks I'd love to see them kind of do their own thing and succeed at it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a great feeling, I think, as to start a company and make it succeed. And not to say they couldn't come in here and take it to the next level or something like that, but yeah, we'll see. I think that I'd certainly be open to it, but at the same time, if they go out and set the world on fire doing their own thing, I kind of wouldn't be sad to see them do that, obviously,
mm-hmm.
either.
This is a great industry, though, isn't it? Aren't you glad you got into it?
It really is.
Yeah,
I really am glad I got into it. It happened sort of by accident. I had a relative who was on the claims side of things, and just used to talk about these crazy claims stories. He worked in marine claims, and he was go up to Cape Cod when somebody crashed their yacht into the rocks or something, and he was always telling these wild stories, and I kind of just sort of seemed cool to me. It just sort of stuck in my mind.
Right.
That insurance. And so when I was going through that journey, I was just like, man, seems like a good business. Everybody I know that's in this business seems like they have a nice life, and it's residual, and you don't need to go, to get a graduate degree in it.
That's
and,
right.
That's kind of how I just fell into it.
That's awesome. Well, Doug, I got to tell you, this went really, really fast. We've already been at this 35 minutes.
I
Can't actually believe it. But any last-minute things you want to say or say to the loyal listeners or anything like that, man?
Loyal listeners, of which I am one. I don't know. I guess I would just say, and I'm on this thing, just keep plugging. If you're out there and you're like, man, I've been doing this for a little bit, and I'm just not hitting it out of the park yet. It takes a minute to get up and running, and it takes some time. Just keep plugging away. Don't give up on the 5-yard line.
That's right. Don't stop believing. It's just
Don't
like the
stop
song
believing.
says, don't stop believing. Doug, I really greatly
wanna hear me
appreciate
sing.
I greatly appreciate you and for what you do, and thanks for being that voice in our industry. I'm really glad for people like David because he brings people like you and I together. And now that we actually kind of have talked with each other, maybe next time we get together, we will have a cold, refreshing beverage. When I saw you in
looking
Tampa,
forward to
I was
it.
in 75 hard, so I couldn't drink. That's why I was real lame, just like standing around. People are coming up to me like, "Man, are you all right?" I'm like, "No, I'm just not drinking." It's just, so I really normally
Well, I got to say,
go ahead.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was going to say, I saw everybody down in San Antonio. I was like, why is everyone going to San Antonio? I had some major FOMO going on there. That looked like an incredible event.
Well, you're going to get an invite this year for the Brain Share, which is in Kansas City. And
Nice.
I mean, there's just cops just pouring behind you. I mean, just cops
Yeah.
after
Well,
cops.
we are across the street from a police station.
Okay, I was
Can't
going to
see
say,
it,
I'm
but,
like, dude, they're just
yeah.
freaking like, I'm thinking we need to turn on CNN. Something's happening in fucking Buffalo right now. So anyways, but yeah, dude, I appreciate you. At April 27th and 28th in Kansas City, Missouri is where we'll be
Nice.
having Brain Share, so you'll be getting an invite. Greatly appreciate you, man. All you loyal listeners, you know what I do because I do it for you. Tell me your thoughts and tell me your ideas, and I'm going to tell the world what you have to say. And this today has been Doug Benz, where I gave you a real agent inside a real agency, giving you the real agency intelligence and not the artificial that they try to make you believe out there. This is Cass. He's Benz. Don't call him Mercedes. We're out.